and I love meeting new people and stoked for today's session.
Thanks, Austin. I want to give a brief shout out before passing to Sam that this feature was born out of like real need, like practical, tactical need from projects. And a lot of that input was had come from David Wright, Ecometrics. So a huge thank you to just what really is collaborative learning all along the way, getting us to a point of where we have something that we hope feels really usable and practical and allowing teams to work together to manage projects. So with that, I will pass it to Sam. Please use the chat for questions. We'll be answering those and then leaving some time for Q&A at the end.
And just to say we're doing it like an hour, do you want to say something about how we're doing it different time?
Yeah, normally RBLs we do an hour and a half, so we have plenty of time for discussion, but we're being tighter with time today, so we'll do the demo and then Q&A within an hour.
Cool. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Austin and Becca, for hosting this. I'm excited to see some familiar faces and new faces. So, yeah, today I'm going to be presenting on a new feature that we have in the Regen app that we recently named Regen Teams. And so during this presentation, I'm just going to give a short overview via some slides of what this new feature is, why we're really excited about what it unlocks. And then I'm going to shift over to a demo in the Regen test application. During this presentation, feel free to raise your hands and like ask questions. Same with the demo, because I think that rather than like holding off until the end with some of the questions. If it feels relevant, just ask and we can talk about those as time goes on. So um, great. So the Regen Teams feature is a new feature that we have for the Regen application. That's pretty I would say groundbreaking in our application's development over time. And so this feature is really meant to kind of empower teams and organizations to treat projects as they kind of naturally develop, in that it's multi-stakeholder and it's very collaborative. And so what this feature does is it introduces two new things. The first is that it introduces the concept of organizations into our application and into the Regen network ecosystem. So previously, our application kind of had a one-to-one relationship between accounts and individuals, and we didn't really have a concept of an organization where you could have, kind of a single account that's managed by multiple people with different roles. And so that's the first kind of thing that we introduced. And then the second is we also introduced multi-stakeholder project management. So similarly, we're using a new type of accounts, which I'll get to in a minute, that essentially are the project account that similarly can be managed by multiple people from a single organization or across organizations with varying roles. And as part of this, we worked with Noah from DAO, who's here on this call, to actually support the implementation of blockchain-based accounts that support this kind of role-based access. And so while this new feature is really exciting for the Regen application and extending its functionality, it's also really exciting in the kind of blockchain ecosystem because we introduced just DAOs to Regen Network, which are essentially like blockchain-based organizations. And as part of that, we also introduced kind of this idea of roles within DAOs. And I'll get to kind of why that's exciting, why that's important in a little bit. So to just go through, each of these kind of key features, the first is organizations. So now within the Regen application, you have the ability to create an organization account for your team. That comes with the ability to add members of different roles. So we have, owners, admins who would be able to manage members. You could have editors who can, manage the projects, manage credit portfolios. And then you can also have viewers that are essentially just members of your organization that might not necessarily have the ability to engage with projects and organizations, but can still participate in showing publicly that they're part of the organization. So, this comes with kind of like public profiles and an organization dashboard where you can manage all of your projects, your credit portfolios, member management, things like that. We also have the projects. And so projects actually operate very similarly to organizations where you can add different members with different roles. You can collaboratively create data posts. All of the members that are part of the project are able to log into their dashboard and view all of the project data, the credits associated with the project. Depending on their role, they might be able to post data posts to the project timeline or edit project information. And so this is really just intended to support kind of that, multi-stakeholder flow from, project inception all the way through credit issuance and sale, where you might have stewards posting data from the field, monitors putting up monitoring reports, verifiers posting their verification report to your project page, or signing on data posts in that others have put up. And then you could do things like adding buyers as viewers to your project, just to give them kind of more deep access to some of the documentation that might not be fully public. And so earlier I mentioned that, we're using what are called DAOs to back this. And so a DAO is essentially, it stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization. It is, you can think of it like essentially an on-chain organization account where you have a single wallet address or account address that can be managed by many people. And so what we've actually done with this is we've set it up such that every organization and every project that's created through the Regen app has a Regen DAO address. And so that creates the ability for that account to hold credits, to manage projects, to hold proposals, to have its own treasury. And so by physically giving an address, we can actually tie members to that DAO or that on-chain organization, and we can actually use it to kind of hold funds and do other things. And so on the right, I just have kind of a screenshot of one of the DAOs from the DAO app that this is a group that Austin and Nena and Shyla from the Regen Foundation have worked with for a while. And this is just a screenshot of how they've used their organization to essentially write proposals, engage in governance over the last few years. And so because we have set it up such that every organization and project has its own DAO, there is limited functionality within the Regen application for engaging in project management, credit issuance, credit sales. But we also have this whole DAO app that Noah has been stewarding for quite a few years that extends functionality to engage in proposals, member management, treasury management as well. And so what's exciting about this feature and the work that Noah did for DAO in supporting us is that, traditional DAOs, you have to vote on pretty much every transaction. So if you wanted to send funds from one account to individuals for compensation for engaging in some sort of activity, you would have to put up that vote, and then people within the DAO would actually have to vote on whether or not they think that they should compensate this individual for their work. And so what Noah did is he introduced a new smart contract called the role-based authorization module. And that essentially authorizes certain addresses to execute certain transactions without going through governance. And in the DAO space, this is actually really exciting and kind of revolutionary because it allows for DAOs to essentially operate a little bit more like traditional Web 2 organizations in features that we'd see in kind of traditional SaaS platforms where, if you're the CFO, you should have the ability to send money around without necessarily going through governance of your organization. If you're the, kind of CEO or executive or COO, you might want to be able to manage members without having to vote on it every time. And so by introducing this, we actually allow for people to engage with the functionality within the Regen application with kind of like minimal Web3 friction where you're not having to vote on everything, while still leaving the ability to engage in governance around projects, around organizations, available via the DAO app. And cool. Noah, is there anything that you want to add for this? And I'm also just going to check the chat for questions.
Yeah, you're doing a great job. Yeah, I think you covered well like what the problem with DAOs is and like what these roles solve. I think this will just really streamline making any decisions as a DAO. Um, and Maddie, you asked about HATS protocol. This is basically like a Cosmos regen version of HATS protocol. A bit simpler. HATS like has this like complex web of smart contracts that all have a lot of functionality, and this is very much just a refined like you can set roles and they have names and they have permissions attached, and it's all done in one contract. So this is hopefully a simpler, lighter version of HATS that is not as complex to set up. Yeah, but feel free to ask any questions on here.
Great. Um, awesome. So yeah, that's kind of an overview of the three, main features. So just some kind of comments about using this new feature before we shift over to the demo. So because we are using DAOs for all of this functionality, this is a feature that does require using a wallet. So previously, the Regen app allowed people to use email addresses to engage with a majority of functionality, but because you're actually signing on-chain transactions to post data, to send credits, you do need a wallet for actually using this. We set it up such that viewers don't need a wallet because they're not actually signing any transactions. And so if you wanted to give access to an investor or a potential buyer or just someone that might wanted to see some of the data associated with a project, they can use their email. But for the most part, wallets will be required. And with that, because you're assigning transactions, you'll also need some regen tokens. So when you create an organization, when you create a project, you'll need some regen tokens to cover the transaction fees, which are, quite small. It's like, fractions of cents. But we have set it up such that when someone creates an organization, they can actually load their organization with regen tokens such that other members of the organization don't have to have their own regen tokens to cover gas fees. So, for instance, if David set up an organization for Ecometric, he could just load the Ecometric account with regen tokens, and then anyone added to the organization, anyone managing projects, can just engage with the functionality in the Regen app, and all of those fees are covered. And yeah, so I'm going to shift over to my demo now. This is going to be on our test app. The new feature will launch the last week of January when we do our Ledger upgrade. If you guys want to engage with this in the meantime, we can send out instructions after this presentation. We have some guides in the Regen Network Guides website. And we'll send over some additional instructions via email. If you do decide to test, feel free to send us questions or feedback. This is still kind of in the final testing phase, so if you see any bugs, please share those with us, and we can kind of get it sorted before we launch this feature. Great. And so with that, I'm going to shift over to the demo. So this is our test application. So it looks exactly like our normal application. The URL is just a little different. It's dev.app.regen.network. if you want to go check it out. And so right now what I'm showing is an organization page. So if I go to this dropdown, you can see that I'm signed in as this test account that I made a few days ago. So this is the kind of individual. If I went to their personal profile, you could just see that this individual has a Regen address. If I go to Kepler, we can see that I have some Regen tokens for this just to engage with the feature. And I use this organization to create this this individual to create this organization. So in doing that, I transferred over some projects that this person was managing to the organization, some of the credits, and then I also added in some members. So you can just see all of the people associated with this organization. And so what I'm going to do today is I will create another organization with like kind of a mock like verifier. And we have this project around habitat connectivity in Montana, where I'm based. So I created a project page. This is an on-chain project. You can see the different stakeholders. And, I just created some mock data posts. So what I'll do is I'll create this organization and we'll just add a data post from that verifier to the project page. So I'm going to switch accounts. Great. And I'll make sure that this account has some Regen tokens. Great. So, yeah, so, this is just another account. So to create an organization, essentially, from the main page, you'll just see in this drop down that you can go ahead and create a new organization. So I think that I have, yep. So I'm going to name this Eco Assurance Labs. I'll give it a logo. Just do something like this. I think I have a little description. And so when I hit next, what's actually happening here is it's creating essentially the on-chain DAO for this organization. So when I sign this, you'll see this little Kepler pop-up, and this is essentially asking you, do you want to create this organization, instantiate it on-chain with this individual as the essentially first member. So I'll go ahead and approve that. It might take a second. Great. So great. So now it's just asking me to link an email address. So I'm just going to create a mock email just for the demo. And it'll ask for confirmation. Great. So if I wanted, I could invite members. I might do that just kind of as a next step, but for now, I'll just go ahead and finish. And so this is kind of the step that I mentioned earlier, where it's asking, the organization creator to essentially fund the organization. So when you send tokens to your organization account, essentially any member that you add to that organization in the future will be able to engage with this functionality using their Regen wallet without necessarily having to get Regen tokens of their own. And we just did this to reduce friction in all the kind of like Web3 setup. So I'll send some tokens. And great. So now we can see our org profile. Sometimes this takes a little bit to load because essentially the image logo, the description or actually being like indexed with the on-chain DAO. And so that's like posting to the DAO contracts and uploading the description, the image, and such that when you go to the DAO app, you'll actually be able to see that as well. So now, if I go to my organization dashboard,
Reggie, jeez.
what was that?
Christian is talking to Reggie.
Oh.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
We want to know what's going on with Reggie, Christian. It's all good.
He's very interested in this entire presentation.
And this is the test app, and sometimes there's a bug that sometimes this is a little slow to load. So let's see if this fixes it. As you can see, we're still ironing out some of the bugs on load time. Right, just do this. Great. So this is the personal view for the dashboard. So before I was showing the public profile, and now you can see that I'm in the dashboard. So this is for the individual's account. So you can see portfolio, sell orders, which they don't have, but then you can also toggle to your organization. And this is where you might be able to manage members. So the next thing I'm going to do is because this person is essentially the mock verifier, we want to add them to the project that they want to upload a verification report for. So I'm going to switch accounts, and before I do that, I want to copy their address so I can invite them. Great. So this is the organization that I showed at the very beginning that had this this project for the habitat corridor. So right now, essentially, I have two options. I could either invite this new user as a member to the organization, or I could invite them just to the project. In this case, I would just want to invite them to the project because they're just playing a role as the verifier for that project, not my organization. So if I go to manage project, I will be able to do this. It loads. Great. So I want to invite a collaborator. I want to, so here are the different roles that I could choose from. So I could choose to make this user an admin, which essentially means that they can manage users, they can edit the project page, they can edit project, like send project credits if there are any credits stored in that project account. I could do editor, which essentially introduces all of those things minus member management. But in this case, I want to make them an author. So I want them to be able to essentially write data posts to the data stream. I want them to be there to kind of see some of the public data associated with this. So I'll invite them as an author and then invite them. Oh, great. I'm seeing some comments when this happens. Great. So now if I go back to that other account, um, so now I'm back in the kind of verifier account. So now I'm able to see that I'm an author. And so if I go to my projects, the organization didn't get it, but the individual did. So this might take a second to load. Um, this. While I'm doing this, is there any questions? I haven't looked at the chat yet.
There were some questions coming up just around which roles require a blockchain wallet and what can they do. So it might be worth re-emphasizing the roles and
Yeah.
they have
So every role that's not a viewer will require a wallet. And the reason for that is that any data posted, any edits to the project page or the organization, credit management all require users to sign on-chain transactions. And so unless you're adding people as a viewer, you will need a wallet. I would say up until like about a year ago, like wallet creation and wallet management was probably a little bit more challenging, just because you had to worry about key management. But now, with Kepler, if you're actually creating a new wallet, you're able to create a new wallet with Google. And so it should be as simple as like, if you guys are using Gmail, just like using your kind of like Gmail like you would any other application nowadays. And so that has just made things a little bit easier because you don't have to worry about key management. Let's see what's happening.
For the record, this happens at the highest levels of billion-dollar tech companies to have the spinning wheel during a demo.
Let me try one more time.
So Sam, just relative to this, in case people are wondering, obviously we're on the DevNet and doing a screen share, but when we launch at the end of the month, I assume the responsiveness will be a little tighter.
Yeah, definitely. Not sure what's hmm. Um, well, we might have to cut it short if this doesn't load. I am able to show the Figma though. Yeah. Well, I think for now I'm gonna maybe stop screen sharing and hopefully this loads soon. But while we wait, yeah, curious to hear any questions or feedback, comments. Um,
Sam, Sam, it's Manj from Moving Forest. Hey, I have a question for you. So if in this case, like with this project, right? So if there's like evidence that are linked to the project showing success, right? And some evidence can arise from data points, or it could be like on the ground sensors or something like that. If I'm just thinking hypothetically here, right? And then some could be like social data that's arrived from municipalities, for example, right? Can, like, for instance, the office of a governor or office of a mayor be injected in here as one of the users or administrators that would authenticate a data point that would say, okay, like with this project, we are improving the livelihoods of the people by improving their income, and that income is tied into a revenue department within a municipality that could, um, like, I guess, approve that request or something like that. Can something like that be done with this system?
Yeah, definitely. So there's no limit to like who can be added to a project. So kind of ignoring the friction points of wallet setup and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, you can add as many members from different organizations as you want. And the app currently is set up such that you could give even without adding someone to the project, you can give people access to individual data posts. So you could have the option of giving someone from the municipal government access to kind of relevant information. You can add them to the project. And then if they do have a wallet, they can come in and sign transactions to essentially like indicate that they reviewed something, or were participating in the process. They could create their own post to the data stream. And so it looks like we have an issue with our dev app, but this is just kind of the main app we have. And so, kind of just to take one of these projects as an example. So, we have ERA Brazil that's essentially just been posting data to the data stream, um, for quite a while. But if we go back to, I think it was maybe even, yeah, like this is an example where we as the registry agents for this project, like essentially just like posted to their data stream, that like we actually reviewed some of the documentation, and then we're actually ready to issue credits to this project. And so you could theoretically follow similar processes for kind of like any different use case. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. It's just the reason I'm asking, because I met with David just earlier this week, and I was trying to figure out how maybe we can collaborate together, because we are building an evidence-based impact engine for landscape restoration projects, uh, to attract big philanthropic investments. So I was thinking, okay, how do we like bring in something like, like with like the work that you guys are doing with Web3, kind of how do we tie something like that into a platform to add
Mhm.
like, you know, added transparency, right? Because
Yeah.
our data is going to come from like, um, sensors, data streams, and like also like social benefits. But those social benefits are done through like surveys and things like that, right? But how do we
Mhm.
actually tie that into actual like verifiers, like from government agencies or whatever, right? So and that's also all tied in on a digital ledger kind of thing, right? So how do we
Yeah.
do something like that, right? So that's kind of what
That's
I'm.
Yeah, that's a great question. And so I think that what is cool about like backing all of this with, Regen Ledgers is essentially all of that that data, the actors and like people participating in the process, that's all transparent. And so, the Regen application is really just one example of how we could do this, how people could use data. So essentially, like what you could do and what I'd like to see happen in the ecosystem is especially now that, kind of we're, entering an age where it's just a lot easier to develop software, to plug in APIs, things like that, is, you could build the kind of like platform and, to show projects in the way that you want. And you can just connect to APIs that are all posting data to Regen Ledger. And what we've done with the Regen application is essentially like we're just indexing uh, posts that are made to Regen Ledger in a separate database with things that are relevant to that project. So, for all of the projects, we're just indexing all of the like anchor events that happen on Regen Ledger to that project with like information of where the data lives, who is participating, things like that, so we can show relevant information. And so, essentially, if you had many organizations that were all posting data to Regen Ledger, you could just have that set up in an indexer that's saying, where does that data live, who has access to it, all of those kind of things. And then you can just build your platform calling APIs where it's looking at Regen Ledger for, what piece of data am I using? Can I see the hash? Can I see the timestamp? Can I see who verified it and attach signatures? And then you can just, be collecting data from all these different sources. And, to me, I think that the value of kind of like having Regen Ledger and like the resolver services with Regen Ledger that like point to where data lives, plus maybe some private resolvers is like in terms of like data management, like you could be storing data in many locations. Like previously, I think, traditional credit registries, it was like everyone has to send data to Vera, and Vera is going to be like the single source of truth. And like you're like emailing data or giving SharePoint links, things like that. But what we could do now with this kind of stuff is like you could just say, great, like Open Forest is storing all of the geospatial kind of like monitoring data. Ecometric has the monitoring reports and they're stored in different databases, but we're just like, we know where those live. They're anchored on Regen Ledger. We're just going to like pull those into the project page. And then you can just add people in, like, people from municipal government to like review, um, those reports and attach signatures. So that's kind of it from the technical perspective. From kind of like how to verify, claims and take all the social data and kind of like wrap it into more legible and easy to like parse through kind of like visual or descriptive information. Like that's a lot of work that, like R&D has done historically. Austin and myself are working on kind of a claims engine concept with some other pilots, and there are other folks in this ecosystem that are really thinking about like how do we structure data to support kind of like more modular like claims management.
Yeah, very true. I mean, it's because we see from like big philanthropy, what they're looking for is like indicators that are verified, and that you can provide evidence validating the indicators, right? And then that's why we're like, of course, we know, Explore that we have, but what we're doing is now we're building this like platform that you can go into understanding the indicators. But I see this as like another level of validation where the indicators could be validated by different organizations that are part of the chain, right? And that provides like full scale transparency to certain projects, right? So,
Mm-hmm. Okay. Does anyone else have questions? They could be on this feature. They could be on like wallet setup because we got some of those questions the other day. Kind of anything is fair game. So.
Sam, could you maybe speak to how thinking about the larger nesting of the Regen registry technical stack? So we've got, the ledger, the marketplace, data posts, and teams, and we've rolled these out at different times, and how these you see are addressing kind of some of the needs that the market has expressed and or kind of weaknesses that have been identified around auditability, transparency, and what this offers a project developer now
Mhm.
that wasn't available to them previously, as far as having a level of agility and just built-in integrity around claims management and asset origination.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I would say that uh this has made it like pretty far, and there's also still a lot of work needed to be done. So just going back to kind of this example that I was showing from the Regen app earlier. I think that just like the transparency is really like the first key step. And so I often refer to kind of like project pages in our ecosystem as like, like the like containers and source of truth for information. Because I think we still largely live in, like a world where like investors, buyers still want to see kind of like, big monitoring reports and kind of just like a lot of, like PDF kind of information. Uh, but previously, it's just like, people didn't really have like access to that. There wasn't necessarily like transparency on like when it was uploaded, like version management, who was kind of verifying it. And so I think we've made like large steps in with things like the data stream, really just showing, like at what point in time were these things created, who uploaded them, all of that kind of stuff. Um, but the ability to just like have everyone use the like project page as a container and like place for like the source of truth of like when things happen throughout the course of the project, what data is accessible. I think that that's kind of really a huge stride. Same with the just like the credit management, which was the very first thing that we, came out with. So just being able to see kind of like easily a log of like how many credits were issued, how many are in a tradable state versus retired state, what are for sale, and if you wanted to go deeper, actually like querying the ledger to see like who bought what credits, what was the price point of those credits, can I see the retirement certificates, like who owns these credits right now is just it's like shifting towards kind of a more transparent workflow, and also just like having the multi-stakeholder feature now. You're just able to manage projects a little bit easier and really like include the voices of all the people participating in the project, where like traditionally it was like project developers that were essentially like uploading and speaking for everyone, right? So it's like in this project, we have ERA Brazil, but you have IHP, you have Verifit, the verifier, Ocala is the monitor. And so now all of those people could actually like upload data posts and kind of just like share about their role in the project. And you can like go to their profiles and see what other projects are they participating, like do they hold any credits? And so I think it's just like, we've really made big strides into offering kind of the base level toolkit to make things more transparent, include, kind of like more multi-stakeholder features. And then the exciting thing about this is really the kind of like governance aspect as well, where, I mentioned earlier that this gives you access to because every organization and project is now backed by a DAO, like you can go to DAO and you can, like use this. Maybe I'll just find like um you can actually use this to like, like write proposals, like engage in treasury management, like see members. And so, previously with things like methodology upgrades or decisions made in the project, like those decisions were probably like discussed on an email chain, maybe a little bit more closed source. And so now people have the ability to actually like write proposals like, do we want to upgrade this methodology based on the scientific research? And, people can come in, they can share their opinions, they can vote on it. And even if voting's not necessarily happening on chain, you could still track governance decisions, by just like writing a proposal and having one person vote saying that, this thing did happen. There was a discussion. Here's the evidence. It, is anchored on Regen Ledger, and this is why we uploaded the methodology. And so I think that this just offers kind of the base level toolkit for more transparent and decentralized or collaborative project management. I think that the things that we're still kind of like seeing you know within the space is like I mentioned earlier, is like we're still living in kind of like this proof of PDF world where there's still the desire for really long PDFs that people will pay verifiers a bunch of money to come in and audit. And some of that stuff is kind of slowly being improved, but that this at least like allows verifiers to not necessarily like justify the cost of such a like difficult verification. If they could just like log into the platform and like see all of the data that they need, they can see the claims that people were making, even in the space level way. So
Makes sense.
yeah.
Any other questions from everyone here? If not, I have one additional question related to just if you could just remind folks of the privacy toggling capabilities relative to posting data or other information. I know that can be a pretty sensitive
Yeah.
issue for folks about what's available to whom and how agile we have the ability to post information to the blockchain to give faith around immutability and kind of the permanence of a claim or of information, but also not necessarily avail like very, maybe information about the location of a jaguar, in a forest that, might be subject to poaching or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, so with our data post settings, the four settings that we have right now is that you can make this entire post public, meaning that all of the data, the description, is viewable to everyone. You can choose for geospatial information, like hide the location data. So maybe you're uploading camera trap images, or soil samples that you want to post the results of, but hide that location data, so you can actually like do that. You can choose to make the files and location data private. So maybe like you want to, say like posting like land tenureship, like information. Like you could, like write a short description about it, and maybe you're uploading kind of like land tenureship documents that, for one reason or another, that like include information that the landowner doesn't want to make public. So this allows people to essentially say, this thing happened, the data exists, uh, here's a description of it, but we're making those files private from the public. So people can actually see what's happening, and then request access to that data if they want it. And then you can also choose to make the entire post private. So, unless people are admins or editors for the project or a member of your organization, they just won't be able to see this. And with these two options, you can always request to view the data, but, this kind of just supports that, making sure that we're kind of like logging the events that are happening throughout the course of a project, and still retaining data privacy. And so, what actually gets posted to the project page is, let's see, go back to that. So we don't do on-chain data storage. So when you're uploading data, you're not actually storing that data on Regen Ledger. What we actually do is we take what's called a hash of the data, So a hash is essentially a string of characters and numbers that are uniquely created based off of a file. So if you had this is an example of a hash. So let's say you had a Word document that was a verification report, you took a hash of it, and then you went back and changed like, three characters and then made another hash. Those two hashes are going to be different. And so essentially what that tells you is that the two files that were uploaded, something changed in between them. Or if like a verifier sent you their verification report and you tried to generate the same hash as what's on Regen Ledger and you see that they're different, you know that something has changed and you can kind of inquire about that. And so when you create data posts, we're just storing this hash on chain. We're pointing to where that data lives. And then people can access it, depending on whether that like end database is public or private.
Great. That's helpful. I know, how much time do we have for today? I think we're at the top of the hour, and technically we have a bit more time. Any other questions? I know we've got some of our partners
Dave,
here.
we're running a different schedule this session, so we're not doing an hour and a half, we're just doing
Okay,
an hour.
great. Well, then to near wrap up. So, any final questions from any of our partners, our teammates, folks around the world? Otherwise, we can start to wrap.
Just a quick one from me, Dave, which I'll put in the chat. It was just to ask whether data posts will now accept file upload or whether it's still folder upload, or is it still at individual file level? That's important for us because we have hundreds of individual files for each project report. And so the limitation at the moment is the time taken to upload as a data post. I really buy into the idea that everything is hosted on the data post through the data post functionality as a single point of truth to direct any auditor to. But at the moment, that just takes too long to be pragmatically feasible.
Yeah, so right now via the UI it's still individual file only, but I think that like David, we should talk about this and I can reach out and we can discuss this. But I think for those kind of things, this is where, in today's day and age, just like using automation, and just essentially like automating like folder upload via API where we could store it, you could choose permissions, and then like no one has to mess with because you have so many projects that, having someone on your team individually, like even if it was a folder upload, go and upload all of those. We can just set up essentially a workflow that it posts directly to the data stream. And that's something that, like anyone on this call that's like thinking about, oh, like, do I have to use the Regen app to do this? You actually don't necessarily need to. You can, we have API documentation that I can share, but essentially like you can just like post data to Regen Letter to the data stream, and to specific endpoints for the Regen application. And those will automatically show up on your project page.
Okay.
And so that I think makes it a little bit easier for kind of these bigger projects where you have a lot of different actors, a lot of data to manage to just manage that kind of stuff.
All right. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, well,
Thank you a lot, Sam. Yeah.
yeah, carry on,
Um,
Bertha.
if folks have other questions, I'm dropping my email in chat. Please be in touch. We'd love to hear like feedback too, anything that you're reacting to, and we'll be back in touch with everybody. I know with just kind of a guide, a walkthrough of how to create an organization once it's live. We really appreciate you all being here, and hope that you'll be able to put this to use. Thank you so much,
Great.
Sam.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone. We'll
guys.
make an announcement when the feature is live, and happy to work with you individually in case you run into issues, but stand by. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks all.
Thank you. Looking
Okay.
forward to using it.
Thanks all. Thank you. It's good to see you.